Hey guys, this is a follow-up to my video about Shemini Atzeret and the day count because I think there's something a little bit more compelling here that I didn't notice at first. So now that we're past Shemini Atzeret, we're looking at October 16th and 17th, and some watchmen have done amazing research on figuring out that this is September 23rd through 24th on the Enoch calendar. So when I recalibrated the 1260 day count, it actually fits even better because that means the two witnesses would be cut off by the beast on Passover 2029 and resurrected 3.5 days later. And this mirrors the death and resurrection of Jesus. And I started thinking about how all of these people have had these two moon dreams. And I know there's been a lot of questions of like, what does it mean? And still not a lot of answers. And this is just a thought. This is just like a branch of connection. I'm not saying this is what it is, but I thought it was interesting how the two witnesses could possibly be a connection to these two moon dreams because a moon is called a faithful witness in Psalm 89:37, and on Passover in 2029, it's a full moon. It's typically a full moon according to the Jews' feasts. So who knows? Maybe there's a connection there. But I also thought about the two full moons that we've had recently. There was the blood moon on September 7th, and then there was the harvest moon on October 7th. So if the rapture were to happen within these 2 days, it would be after those two witnesses, those two moon witnesses. So with that in mind, October 16th and 17th is 10 days from the harvest moon, October 6th and 7th, which on the Julian calendar is September 23rd, 24th. And I thought about this a while back, but there's an interesting connection to 10 days in Revelation 2:10, which is the letter to the Smyrna church, and Jesus tells them that they will face persecution and be imprisoned for 10 days. And so 10 in that context represents, and also literally represented, a time of trial and testing for them. And I know that a lot of us right now are going through some really intense trials and testing of our faith in all different aspects and areas. And the other connection to 10 days is that from Feast of Trumpets to Day of Atonement is 10 days. And those are called the 10 days of awe, which is a time for reflection and repentance. So I wanted to add this tidbit because Matt and I did a Revelation study over the past year on YouTube, and it reminded me of when we went over the Smyrna church. And the meaning of Smyrna is myrrh. So myrrh is a yellow resin that comes from bark, and it is expensive but used for embalming dead bodies. It must be crushed for the aroma to be released. It has a bitter taste but a sweet smell. So when you think of trials and testing and suffering, it doesn't feel good in the moment. It's crushing, it's painful, and it's bitter. But the result is a sweet smell. The result is good comes from it. And the Magi, as we know, brought baby Jesus gold, frankincense, and myrrh. But interestingly, in Isaiah 60, verse 6, the nations give the Messiah gold, frankincense, but no myrrh. So this is about the second coming. So again, just this connection with Jesus being crushed and crucified the first time, but as the glorified King, he doesn't need myrrh because there's no symbolic significance to his second coming because he doesn't have to be crushed anymore. He already was crucified for us. I also looked back to see what we had talked about with the 10 days, and obviously it symbolizes a period of time, but it's comforting because it shows that there is going to be an end to their troubles. So in specific relation to the Smyrna church, Jesus was giving them comfort that there would be time of testing and trials and persecution for 10 days, but they had that comfort of knowing it was going to end. And I think that's where a lot of us are right now, especially with all the trials I'm hearing people go through. There's going to be an end. And I think that's the comfort that we do need to remember, that whenever Jesus does come back, there will be an end. And through this, just remember that there is redemptive value in suffering and trials and the testing of your faith. So back to October 16th and 17th, the second layer, which is amazing, is that this would technically be the Feast of Trumpets according to the lunar calendar on a Jubilee year. So I know this isn't new information because people had put this connection together a long time ago, but it is interesting kind of seeing it potentially play out. So other than the fact that September 23rd, 24th is October 6th and 7th on the Julian calendar. If you go to a deeper level and start studying about the full moons and God's feasts and the timing of that, you can deduce that the Jews are doing it the opposite way. They're celebrating the new months by the new moon, but personally, through my own research and others' research, it seems like God has always intended that the new months begin with a full moon. And so with that being said, the Feast of Trumpets, which is at the beginning of the month of Tishri, would be a full moon. But the extra layer is that if this is a Jubilee year, Leviticus 25:9 says that Feast of Trumpets occurs 10 days later, which would be on the Day of Atonement. So in other words, Feast of Trumpets and Day of Atonement concur. They happen on the same day. So with that being said, October 6th would have been the start of a new month, according to the perspective that God's months begin with a full moon, but you add 10 days to account for the Jubilee year, and it brings you to October 16th and 17th. Another interesting layer about this is that this would occur right after the Jews' Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. And I find it interesting because in Amos 8, it says, "In that day," and this is talking about the day of the Lord, "I will make the sun go down at noon. I will darken the land in the daytime. I will turn your feasts into mourning and all of your songs into lamentation." What's interesting about this is that he specifically says your feasts into mourning. And if the rapture and tribulation were to begin on the 16th or 17th, or even the 18th, sometime in this window, it would be right after all of their fall feasts are over. So what started as a new month of celebration will be turned into mourning. So now when we take the 2550 day count into consideration, and if we start on the 17th of October, it would bring us to October 10th, 2032, which is Shemini Atzeret on God's lunar calendar. So with this, he would be fulfilling his feasts through and through. So in other words, potentially, again, this is just speculation, if the rapture were to happen on the 16th or 17th, he would be fulfilling the Day of Atonement and the Feast of Trumpets according to his lunar calendar. And then at the end, he would be fulfilling Shemini Atzeret. Another interesting fact, and I put 7 days later because I was looking at October 11th first, but around a week later is a blood moon on October 18th. Bro Scott on YouTube did a really great job compiling this timeline and starting with the tribulation beginning October 18th and then taking us to October 11th, and he has some really good points there as well. Now, here are some fun facts related to the number 17. So the flood began on the 17th day of the second month, and so the tribulation is a mirroring of the flood, which is worldwide judgment. And then 16 and 17 means love and victory. And the 16th time the word love is used in 1 John, it says there is no fear in love. And another interesting thing is that it will have been 23 or 24 days since September 23rd, 24th, 2025. So again, this is just for fun, more breadcrumbs. Now, I want to end with encouragement to not lose heart no matter what happens, because from our finite perspective, I personally think this looks incredible, just how everything has lined up and the feasts and the days and the timing. Like, in my opinion, this is even better than just September 23rd, 24th, how we thought it was going to be. But again, that's from my finite perspective. And through all of this, I've learned that the more I know, the less I know, but also that God is so much bigger than we think he is. You know, we try to put him in a box. We try to, make him so rigid, but his ways are just so beyond our understanding. With that, don't stop seeking his face and don't stop drawing close to him no matter what, because like I mentioned before, there is going to be an end. And so until there is that end, just hang on tight and keep serving, keep loving, just follow his voice wherever he leads you. But with that, hopefully we see each other in the clouds. And if not, I'll see you in another video.